I want to start with a story. And this story begins at one of my favorite places, the University of Missouri, and involves a dorm room and a cup of coffee. Now, most people wouldn't associate college and dorm rooms with coffee. They probably associate it with some other beverage. But at this time, in this place, it was finals, and I was cramming because, well, let's face it, I'd partied a little too much that semester and really needed to ace these finals. So it was late, I was going for the all-nighter, and the door was open and people were walking around. And as I'm studying, I look up and there's a woman standing at the door, co-ed dorm, you know, standing at the door with a big pot of coffee. And I've never had coffee in my life. Never wanted coffee, never thought about coffee, thought it was something that old people drink. Why would I bother with coffee? This is before Starbucks, so you can imagine. But I was really tired. I had to stay up all night. I've heard coffee has this thing called caffeine that may keep you awake. So I took her up on it and took that cup of coffee from her. That girl, by the way, and I, we've been married for 19 years now, and our daughter is going to be 12 this October. The reason why I tell you that story is because I had no intention at that time of meeting someone, getting to know them, falling in love, after graduation, marrying that person, moving out to California, and living a life and having a daughter. That's exactly what happened. And it happened because I couldn't predict that. And if you think about your life and in work as well as your personal life, the things that are the most important to you, I bet are the things that you weren't able to predict. So the less you can predict something, the more impact it actually has. And that is true in all the facets of what we're now looking at as far as digital marketing and social media. The things that we don't know are actually more important than the things we know. And it's important in this environment to let go of our preconceptions and to allow space to innovate. We have trouble doing that as a species because we like things that are planned. We like things that have happened. We like concrete. We like case studies. We like reports and data. We like looking back and seeing that, yes, okay, that worked for that person. I can now take that and that's real and concrete and I'll move that forward. And that's great. And we need those things. That's very important to build off of. But we don't look so much at the things that could have happened. We don't look and say, here's where we could have taken this. Here's where this might go. Here's, if we maybe tweak it this way, this could happen if we experiment a bit. And we don't like doing that. We typically like to read case studies and not be the ones who are responsible for writing them. We like to be the ones who don't have to take that leap. But that is where innovation thrives. Innovation thrives in those valleys, in those leaps of faith, in those places where you can't predict what's going to happen. The low predictability gives you the largest impact. And that's a space we have to be able to live in today in order to innovate and do the things that we think are going to be most important for our clients, as well as in our lives. Now, I'm an older guy. I've been around for a long time. Okay, maybe not this long, but I definitely remember these things, personal computers. I do remember where I was when I first accessed the web and downloaded Mosaic. I do remember when, for example, Amazon actually sold books. Believe it or not, that's what they actually did, way back when. I remember the site called Google, this very funny named site that was this apparently search engine that, according to this slide, as you can see, indexed all 25 million pages on the web. And it says, and soon even more. It's like, yeah, just a little bit more. I actually remember when media was delivered on dead trees and pieces of paper delivered by trucks that went up to your sidewalk and threw it onto your driveway and wasn't delivered in pixels. I remember all these things. And if you want to look at it in a different context, we can kind of track the evolution of the internet and in just 3 key words, ways to think it through. One of those is download. Look at Web 1.0 when the web first started, 1992, 93, through the 90s. It was all about download. It was about accessing information. And we downloaded and we pulled information from the web that people put up for us. And very little interaction other than e-commerce or something like that. And then we moved into the Web 2.0 phase. And in Web 2.0 it was about upload. And we are now able to participate and create content and push things out for others to see and for them to download and for them to upload their own comments and collaborate on information. And now we're in a space where we've come to overload. where there's now so much upload and download and so much information being created that we're literally overloaded, not just with information, but overloaded with the pace of change in technology. In fact, technology is evolving faster than we as human beings are able to adapt. So how do you innovate in that environment? How do you, make a leap and come up with ideas and actually, connect with audiences and consumers when there's so much overload going on? How do we find that space to make it work, not just in business, but in life as well? So much has changed and so much has improved. In fact, innovation is thriving. So why does it feel like something is missing? Why does it feel like, as communicators, sometimes we're not always doing the right thing or the best thing we could be doing? I've seen enough futures to know that not all of them are better than the ones that came before. I've been in enough pitches, brainstorms, proposal writing, you name it, to know that all the technical innovation, all the empirical knowledge in the world isn't going to make us get more clients, is going to help us grow more business. It's not going to help us connect with people any better. So for the next few minutes, I want to share with you what I've learned in about 20 years of being in this business and help you discover some of the blind spots that maybe you didn't know were there before. In this world of open media, everything is visible. What matters is knowing where to look and how to find those places to open yourself up to the innovation and possibilities you never knew were there. So let's look at the big picture and what it means to be engaged, truly engaged, with the audiences and for the right reasons. And to do that, let's begin with some wisdom from one of my favorite Vulcans, Mr. Spock.
Spock, does the good of the many outweigh the good of the one?
I would accept that as an axiom.
Well, then you stand here alive because of a mistake made by your flawed, feeling human friends. They have sacrificed their futures because they believed that the good of the one, you, was more important to them.
Humans make illogical decisions.
They do indeed.
So, what Spock said, or what Spock's mom actually said, is that by being illogical was a good thing. Being illogical actually allowed Spock to survive, because he was already dead and then was able to live again. But if he, well, anyway. What it means is the illogical choices are sometimes the best choices to make. And that means taking a little bit of a leap. It means being out of your comfort zone a little bit, and that's all right. Who would have thought, initially that an iPod and a running shoe would have made sense to go together? Well, someone at Nike thought so, and that's how they created the Nike Run program that tied your iPod to your running shoe and allowed you to track your distance and listen to music and all those kind of things and upload your progress and share them with friends. Why would you need a phone to also have a music player and a web browser? Doesn't make any sense. It's just a phone, right? Well, that's what Apple did with the iPhone, and at the time it seemed very illogical. Now it seems like, why wouldn't you have those pieces? But they were able to make that leap and do something a little bit different. And I think that's something we need to take a hold of too, that ethic, that mindset of constant innovation and being a little out there, not just outside the box for the sake of doing it, to use that metaphor, but to actually do something special and different and memorable. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know this guy, Don Draper from Mad Men. And back in the days of Mad Men, there was a phrase people used called the ABCs, always be closing. And that meant that you always had to be in every situation, closing the deal, closing the deal, closing the deal. And we still need to close the deal. But the way we approach it, I think, needs to be a little bit different. So my new ABCs are always be creating, always be consulting, and always be changing. What that means is we need to be more than just salespeople or vendors or service providers for clients. We need to be their counselors. We need to be their teachers. We need to be their partner in their endeavors and their efforts and what they're trying to do. That's what they're asking for. That's what they're seeing as the highest value. And that's what we need to bring back to them. It's more authentic, it's real, and it actually, in this space that's constantly changing and growing, provides a level of comfort that they may not be able to get from someone who's just selling a service. If you think about it, if you do those things, if you're always changing, always thinking of different ways to do things, if you're always consulting with them, providing them the latest trends and what's happening with this new tool or new product out there, if you're always creating, always iterating and trying things and living life in perpetual beta and willing to go out there and do something a little bit different, then you become indispensable. You get in that spot of they can't live without you, because you are literally their brain helping them move through things. You're not just implementing arms and legs, but you are literally part of their brain trust and making that happen. Vendors sell services, but leaders sell insights. And what does that mean? It means that if you are just a vendor, you're providing a product, providing a tangible thing. And you're looked at a little bit differently as a vendor. As a vendor, you're talking about the what. It's what are you doing? This is a static what thing here. As a leader and selling insights, what you're actually selling is the so what. You're selling in your expertise, your experience in the marketplace and with them. And that is actually where sales happen. If you look at this chart, and you look at the bottom end of the chart, the bottom left, that's where vendors sit in the status quo. Providing a service, tangible object, fine. But as you go up higher in the other arc, that's where the insights sit, or what I'm calling the status hell no. Because it's not the norm to go in and sell insights, but that's what really works with the client. Again, back to that ABCs that we discussed earlier. So if you want to be a leader, you need to sell insights. That's where they will position you in the client's mind. That's what makes you indispensable to do that. And as a leader selling insights, you still ultimately will create services out of that, but it's born out of research. It's born out of an insight that you've garnered from your experience or looking at the marketplace or looking at data. It's something that comes from a very real place and puts you in a position of more strength within an organization. Your client is actually not your client. Their customers are. And not just their customers, but all their stakeholders. In this environment, we have to look beyond just the traditional customer or consumer, but we have multiple stakeholders in this environment. But those are the people we need to be listening to. Those are the people that we can get the insights from, where the innovation can come from. It's not about the marketing goal, the PR goal. It's really about the business. And when we talk about the business goals, that comes back to their constituencies. So those are the people we need to be listening to. Because sometimes in a company, you get so insular and blinded by what's happening inside that building that's sometimes hard to see how consumers are actually looking at your product, or how investors are viewing your product, or how the media is viewing your company or your thought leadership. So those are the people we need to be listening to. Not the clients necessarily, but to their customers and what their needs are. Tell stories. Sounds simple, but it's something that we've actually forgotten how to do in today's fast-paced open media environment. It's funny that when you think of social media, something with the word social actually in it, something that actually connects people to each other and allows engagement at a very deep emotional level. We've taken this thing and we've turned it into something cold. We've turned it into something static. We've taken stories and turned them into content. We've used words like engagement, post, that really pull the emotion out of everything that all this stuff is about. Using these words is just another way to emotionally detach, really, from what's happening. So we need to come back to storytelling. We need to tell more stories. We need to get back to a bit of narrative in how we communicate, not just with clients and their audiences, but with each other. Stories are transformational. Stories are personal. Stories are history personified. Content is cold and distant. Content is artificial intelligence. When stories are reduced to content, ideas die. So this is a key thing that we need to make sure we don't forget as we move forward. We need to keep telling stories. We can sum up a lot of what I've been saying in this way. It's about sociology and not technology. Look, technology is great. We need technology. We wouldn't have the innovations that we're seeing now without technological advancement. But if you think about it in terms of the human body as a metaphor, Technology is the heart. It pumps the blood, it keeps everything going. It's the thing that makes it all work. But conversation is the soul. Conversation is the sociological aspect of why this is so powerful, of why people want to connect. It helps the synapses fire in a way that make us want to use this as a medium and draws us closer together. Sociology is what powers YouTube. What would YouTube be without people uploading videos to it every day? Sociology is what powers a lot of corporate websites today, 90% of which have some sort of social interaction. You know, if you think back to the early days of the web and what the killer app was of the Web 1.0 era, you could talk about, you know, HTML or e-commerce or browsers, but the killer app really was email. That's the thing that really made it, you know, something relevant for us. We still use email today. But if you think of Web 2.0, what the killer app is now, well, we are people. We're the killer app of the digital media age. So it's very important that we don't forget that people are at the heart of what we're doing, and that conversation is the thing that keeps social media moving and makes it relevant. I talked earlier about needing to focus on the big picture, and this is why. If you see this picture here, this is actually a picture that was given to me by a colleague a few years ago. He didn't come up and give it to me personally. He left it on my desk, and I saw it there a little while later and thought it was a nice picture and kept it on my desk. And he came in a little while later, a few weeks later, and said, you know, what did you think of the photo? And I said, great, oh my God, your daughter is so cute. I love this photo of your little girl. And he said, that's a photo of your daughter. And I looked at it in a different way this time. And I said, yeah, that actually is my daughter. And I looked at it even closer. That was my backyard. Not only was that a picture of my daughter, it was taken at my house. And to this day, I have no recollection of that photo ever being taken. My daughter must have been 2 years old at the time, which would make it around 2000 or so. And in 2000, 2001, I had left an agency and I was starting my own company in digital marketing. I was dealing with investors and partners and getting clients. And while I was doing that, this happened. While I was doing that, my life charged by without me. And I tell you the story now because you don't want to let that happen, no matter what. It's important whatever you're doing, with a client, with yourself, to always look at the big picture. There's always something more. There's always something more you could be looking at, something else you could be focusing on that maybe is more important than what you think is truly important at that time. So I think my final message to you is to make sure that as you go through life, you make sure you are looking at the big picture. You're taking those blinders away, you're removing those blind spots that prevent you from being innovative, prevent you from being a little bit illogical, prevent you from being a change agent, from being a consultant, that prevent you from looking at things from a storytelling perspective, that prevent you from doing all the things that make communication valuable and worthwhile. Thank you.